Your old-fashioned sucks. Your friends are afraid to tell you because every time you make one, you point out those bougie bitters you overpaid for. We've talked about it, and we agree. Your favorite drink has a lot of room for improvement. But that's okay. We're here for you. Hey, I'm Sonny, and before creating The Whiskey Show, I was the whiskey expert at one of the nation's top-rated whiskey bars. Turns out there's a list. Did you know that the most important ingredient in an old-fashioned is the garnish? Not because of the flavor you get in the end product, it's because a vegetable peeler can do some real damage and oranges are terrible to peel. They're too f***ing round. But garnish is the most important because it's the only thing that could send you to the ER tonight. Traditional peelers also deliver a low yield because of how much they take off. Enter the channel knife. If you have ever been gifted a bartending set or bought a zester, there's a chance you already own one of these. I found this one at a grocery store, but if you aren't in a time crunch due to a filming schedule, I highly recommend you get this one from Amazon. Link in the description. It's not an affiliate link. If you want to support this channel, leave a comment for your favorite whiskey to use in an old-fashioned. Commenting just for the sake of commenting helps this channel. Anyways, the whole point of the orange peel is the blast of citrus you get. When you use a channel knife directly over the glass, you will end up with a similar amount of juice and zest as you would with a bigger peel, but you'll get more out of your oranges. Plus, if you learn how to make these rounds really long, they look awesome. And if you're making the first drink of the night, you might even want to just give it a little rim. Really sells it. After the first drink, they won't notice, I promise. While we're on the topic of garnish, let's talk cherries. In my opinion, every other cherry is inferior to a Luxardo cherry. Many find these too sweet or too expensive. I agree, most of the time. But cherries are a vibe. If I'm in the mood for a cherry, it's gonna be a Luxardo. 95% of the time I make an old-fashioned, I just don't put a cherry in the first place. Most people are forgiving if you don't have cherries, especially when they're drinking your booze. If you're the type of person who doesn't like the taste of alcohol, a Luxardo cherry with a bar spoonful of that syrup will turn your cocktail into the dessert experience you're looking for. But this is The Whiskey Show. I'm guessing that a majority of people here are looking for a balanced, booze-forward old-fashioned. Ice matters. Barely, but it does. Stick with me here. The only bad ice is huge ice. These huge cubes make it extremely hard for you to actually mix a drink at the end of this. You're gonna end up with a big pool of bitters at the top. If you have one of those new Samsung fridges and you get that cool spherical ice, it's fine. If the drink feels a little off though, add in a little water at the end, a little cold water, because you're really getting a lot less dilution. The best ice is medium, chunk style ice like you would get in a bag at a gas station. Understand that we are making a drink solely comprised of alcohol, syrup, and concentrate, so dilution is crucial to the final balance, and surface area is your friend. We're only going to give these drinks a short stir at the end to chill and melt a little bit of the ice. Speaking of things that barely matter, let's talk about bitters. I made fun of bitters at the beginning, but let me elaborate. Weird flavors of bitters don't excite me. In my opinion, they exist so someone who calls themselves a mixologist can charge you $19 for a drink because it has notes of lavender and hibiscus. Many of these flavors don't actually go well in an old-fashioned with bourbon or rye. I think they're meant for other drinks. Throw some lavender bitters into a gin and tonic, and I'll probably enjoy it. For an old-fashioned, I stick with orange, angostura, and pichards. These are like the OG bitter from Louisiana. It's technically Sazerac's oldest brand, but they had to sell it off and rebuy it. If you have a weird flavor of bitters you like, that's great. And if you're making an old-fashioned with barrel seagrass, some off-the-wall accent flavor could be perfect. But that's what bitters are, an accent flavor. If you don't notice what regular bitters are adding, you're probably not adding enough. When we say 2 to 4 dashes, we're talking about those big dashes, and you can feel the difference with a little bit of practice. Finally, the one ingredient that is actually kind of a special ingredient in my bar is the syrup. Instead of a traditional simple, I prefer a brown sugar simple syrup. You should never buy simple syrup. It is 1 part water, 1 part sugar. Or in this case, brown sugar. People go with different ratios, but by old school definition, a simple syrup is a 1-to-1 ratio. The sugar from the simple is what rounds out all of the conflicting flavors into a harmonious premium cocktail experience. If you're still learning how to make drinks by taste, add this last. It's the only ingredient that you could go way too far with. Okay, so we covered everything except the booze, which is ironic because when I polled the lovely subscribers of this channel, a majority of you agreed that the liquor was the most important ingredient, and I'm inclined to agree. These tips and tricks were for everything else to get to my perfect old-fashioned. You could change any of these steps and still end up with a great drink. But does cheap liquor ruin it? To figure out how much you should spend on cocktail fodder, we're gonna sit down with John next week and compare 5 cocktail contenders and rank them to find out how much of a difference it actually makes. I'm not just saying this, I was shocked by the results. No way!
Wow, goodbye.
Whoa, I'm never gonna recommend that again. Yo, you can take that home.
Okay, so let's just tutorial this thing real quick. Ask any bartender and they will tell you making drinks starts with prep. Your checklist will vary for what you're putting on, but for an old-fashioned, it's actually pretty easy. Ensure you have 1 bottle of bitters minimum, ice available, and get your brown sugar simple syrup put together. If you want a sweeter old-fashioned, use regular sugar. If you don't have brown sugar, but you have regular sugar and molasses, you're in luck. Our boy Adam Ragusia taught us how to put these 2 things together. Admittedly, when John tried to do this the other night, it took about 4 minutes for it to really come together in 3 different utensils. I don't think the dishes are worth it, and we usually have brown sugar lying around. We're going 1-to-1, 1 cup sugar, 1 cup water. This only needs to come to a simmer. Whisk it a bit before taking it off the heat and letting it cool down completely. Transfer to a squeeze bottle. They are cheap and worth it.
At the bar, we will start with a rocks glass. Always start with ice. If you forget what you already put in the drink, the ice makes it easy to tell. 3 to 4 good dashes of each bitter, 2 ounces of the liquor of your choice, and top it off with a quick squeeze of brown sugar simple syrup. Adjust any ingredient to taste. To finish, use your channel knife to add the aroma of citrus and to show off. If preferred, add a cherry and repeat until people stop asking and leave you alone.